Hey there everyone, my name is Jenna. Welcome or welcome back to the channel. In today's video, I figured I'd update you guys on some pretty big life events that have been happening here in the Pierce household. So we'll do that. I'll do my makeup so you guys can kind of see an updated makeup routine of how I get this look. You know, I don't like to spend a ton of money on makeup, so a lot of it is more like affordable drugstore products. So I'll show you how I use those and just a little bit of skincare and stuff like that. And then we'll kind of chat about some big life updates. So yeah, without further ado, let's get into it. Okay, so here we are. This is our starting point every day. I kind of wanted to talk about really quick what I do before bed, just so you guys know, like, I don't really have an extensive skincare routine or anything like that. Also, none of this is sponsored. This is just the stuff that I've been doing myself for years. So I used to be a flight attendant, and I was a flight attendant living in the desert, and my skin was so dry. So this is the only thing that I really found that seriously helped was this CeraVe moisturizing cream. And so what I'll do with this is I'll just put like 3 drops of this in with my moisturizing cream, and then I'll put that on my face. And these are self-tanning drops. So it just kind of gives my face a little bit of a glow. And you know, I typically do this if I'm going on vacation or if I'm going to the pool and I just know that I'm gonna wanna wear light makeup. This kind of helps with that. So otherwise I just use this by itself every night, and that's like my main form of skincare, honestly. So that's what I do before bed. And then on the days where I just wanna have like very light makeup, I use this CeraVe Hydrating Mineral Sunscreen with a sheer tint to it. So this is just kind of nice if I want to, you know, have something on my face, but I don't want to do like a full face of makeup. So this is typically just what I use for my primer anyways. So I'll put a little bit of that on, and I'll kind of just start talking about, you know, what has been going on. So a lot of you know that about a year ago now, we decided to move to Arizona. Before that, we were living in Charlotte, North Carolina. And we built a house there, and I love that house. Like, we honestly, when we built it, we thought that we would be staying there forever and that it would be our forever home. We were finally like on the East Coast, close to family, and that's just kind of, you know, where we thought we would be. So after a couple of years of living there, we ended up really missing Arizona, which was where we moved from originally. I was a flight attendant based out here, and that's kind of how I got out here. Was they based me here, and I was here for 7 years, and then Mike moved out here with me for 2 years. And we just kind of missed the sunshine, the warmth, the atmosphere, and the West Coast. So after years of saving, we finally made the decision to move back here. And we were in a different place in our lives when we moved back here than we were when we lived out here the first time. Before, when we were out here, we had a much more like a lighter lifestyle. Like, we were always traveling. We just had a 1-bedroom apartment. We didn't have Kona. So we were just kind of always out and about and traveling and going places. And then obviously we had a much different lifestyle in North Carolina, where we were kind of just more, you know, taking care of our house on the weekends, doing maintenance, spending time with our dog, spending time with family, not as much travel. So kind of like a more settled down lifestyle. So we were cautious because we knew we missed Arizona, but we didn't want to mistake that for like the lifestyle that we missed. So we weren't 100% positive that if we moved back here, we would love it again. So as a contingency plan, we kept our house back in North Carolina and we rented it out. So after I do the sunscreen, then I just kind of go in with this concealer, and this is when I'm doing like more of a full face of makeup and it's more of a full coverage day. Otherwise, I'll just kind of put on a little bit of bronzer, maybe a little bit of powder, do my eyes, eyebrows, and then we're done. But I'm gonna show you guys the full face today, what I usually do for my videos. So I usually just do a little bit under my eyes here because I'm always tired, and then here for my eyeshadow, and then like a little bit down my nose, and then I blend that out. So anyway, we weren't really sure about moving back here. We hoped that it would be the place that we missed, but we weren't positive. So we just wanted to keep our house in Charlotte to be sure that, you know, the grass wasn't greener, you know what I mean? We ended up obviously renting a house for a little bit out here, and then we found this house that we're in now, and it didn't take us a lot of time to realize like we really missed Arizona, and this was the place that we wanted to be. We really did not see ourselves moving back to North Carolina. So that kind of left us with the decision of what to do with the North Carolina house. Also, now I'm gonna put on my powder. There were 2 options. We obviously could keep the house as a long-term rental, or we could kind of cash out and then use that for other opportunities out here. Also, this is my new favorite product. I've been using it for maybe about like 8 months now. This is the ColourPop Bronze Stick. So I just literally put 2 stripes right here and then I blend that out and it just gives such a nice glow. It's definitely like pretty contouring. This is the Moonstone Beach shade. They do have lighter shades, but I just love a good, you know, bronzy cheek. So I'll typically put the leftovers like on my jawline and then just do a little bit here on my nose. But I just love the pigment on this and how like sun-kissed it looks. And then sometimes I'll go back in with like my foundation brush and like maybe clean it up a little bit, you know, so it's not so crazy. And then after that I use this Merit blush and I love this. I just put this like right on the apples of my cheeks and it just gives a really nice kind of flush and I blend that out like that. That's always my favorite part, is just adding the glow with the bronzer stick and the blush. But basically we struggled with the decision to sell the house or keep it as a long-term rental. Keeping the house as a rental gave me a little bit of stress for a couple of reasons. One, I didn't really like being financially responsible for 2 properties. Obviously we saved up money for a down payment and for renovations, and we still made sure that we had a cushion, but that cushion could quickly disappear if something went wrong with this house and then also something went wrong with the other house. So around the time that we moved into this house and we were getting all of the renovations done, our dog unfortunately tore her ACL, and then we made the decision to get the surgery done so she could live out the rest of her life still being able to run and play fetch and all of that. So that was very stressful because that is a very expensive surgery, and that kind of opened our eyes to the fact that, you know, anything can go wrong at any time, and you definitely want to have a good savings cushion, especially if you're financially responsible for 2 properties. And not only that, but you're responsible for somebody else's housing. You know, a hurricane comes through and does major damage to the roof. You're responsible for making sure that person has a place to stay. And maybe that was me being a little bit too anxious about everything, but being responsible for 2 properties just made me feel a little uneasy when we had so much work to still do on this house, and you know, this house is still going to take a lot of money to get done the way we want. Another big thing is I don't think that Mike and I are ideal landlords. Also, I'm obsessed with this butter highlighter. I've been using this like probably for almost 6 or 7 years now. It's like my favorite. I just put it on my cheeks for a little bit of a glow, a little bit on my nose, and sometimes on my chin and right here. But Mike and I were not great landlords in the sense that we cared too much. This house was obviously our baby. This was our first house. We built it together. We picked out all the finishes. We put in so much work with the landscaping and all of the little finishes and making additions and customizations to the house itself. So we really wanted it to stay pristine, and you know, we personally decided to pay for landscapers because we didn't want a tenant coming in there and then the whole thing becoming an overgrown jungle with dead plants that we worked so hard to, you know, really create this beautiful kind of like cottage style garden. So we wanted that to stay in its original condition. I think that we were in constant fear of like all of our hard work just getting ruined by a tenant, because I think deep down we always knew that we were going to sell the house, but there was always this idea of it just being a long-term rental and an option that we always go back to. And so obviously we really struggled with that, because I feel like that's like the responsible thing to do, and you know, you hold your real estate long term, and that's what everyone was like telling us to do. But I felt like that was a little bit different than what was right for us. So that made the decision even a little bit more harder and stressful, because what our hearts were telling us to do was a little bit different than what we felt like we should do, or like the responsible thing to do, I guess. Also for eyeshadow, I've been using this Nude Mood by ColourPop. And what I'll do is I'll start with this Al Natural shade, and then I put that in my corners and I kind of like build it up. So I'm gonna do that and keep telling the story. But basically, after talking about it for a while and kind of like stressing out about it, because obviously everything has a deadline, because you have to let the tenant know if, you know, you're going to continue renting the place out or if you are going to sell it. And actually, we asked our tenant, we were totally in agreement of renting it out one more year and, you know, waiting that year. But we kept reaching out to the tenant and seeing what their plans were, and they actually were not responding back to us. And obviously selling a house requires a lot of preparation. We had to mentally prepare ourselves, and we decided that I think the best thing for us right now is to sell the house. Also now I'm going in with the cocoa, and then I just kind of put that in the corners and blend it out. So we made the decision that we were selling the house, and the house sold super quick. We closed quickly. It is now sold. So we figured instead of kind of holding on to something that we know isn't going to really serve us anymore, we would get a lot more out of taking that money to use it to enhance our lives here and create more opportunities for us here. So one of those things that we are going to be doing is we are going to put our pool in and redo our backyard. So right now, actually what I'm doing is I'm taking this Wink Wink like sparkly shade, and then I just put that in the creases and I kind of like blend it out towards the middle. Just makes like a nice little glowy look, you know? And then what I'll do after I do my eyeshadow is I'll go in with the foundation brush and just kind of like clean up anything that's like over the line or whatever. Then we're ready for eyeliner and to do our brows. So for a while I was using eyeshadow to do my eyeliner, but back when I was a flight attendant, this is what I used, and I just started going back to it because it has a lot less like bleeding and fallout throughout the day. It kind of stays in place, and it's just like the OG, like what I've been using for probably over 10 years now. So I use a brown shade, so it's like not super intense. I'll just link everything below in the order that I put it on, but I do the bottom, and then I also do the tops here. So then for brows, I just use this e.l.f. brow pencil, kind of give it a little brush with the spoolie, and then I go over it with the little crayon part. And now what we're going to do is redo the backyard. So in this video, I'm going to kind of share some of the plans with you guys and just walk you through the backyard and take you through what we're planning to do with it. Obviously, we don't want to blow all of the proceeds on just like redoing our backyard. So it's going to be very budget friendly, but it's really going to transform the space. So I'm super excited to show you guys. I'll take you out there in a minute. But one of the big reasons that we did decide to do the backyard and like put the pool in is because I know I mentioned that Kona, she tore her ACL. So, you know, we used to take her to parks all the time and she would just run, and, you know, she's a crazy dog. Like, she loves to play fetch. She loves to run around. She loves to swim. And ever since she had her accident, we are just really trying to preserve her knees, because the surgeon did tell us a lot of times it is very common for them to also tear their other knee if they have torn one knee, because they put a lot of weight and stress on the other one. So we just try to find ways for her to, you know, have exercise, but not go so hard like she normally does. And not that we're putting a pool in solely for our dog, but it did kind of weigh into the decision because she's 6 years old, and we kind of didn't want to wait 2 to 3 years to save up. And then when we were finally ready to put it in, we figured we would get a lot more enjoyment and use out of it if we just kind of did it right now and had all of those years with a pool in our backyard for her. It's going to allow us to be able to redo our backyard, because I haven't been able to plant anything, do any landscaping, because we're waiting to put the pool in, because if I do any landscaping, it's all going to get ripped up when they dig the hole for the pool anyways. So it'll be nice that we can kind of just get this done, and it will really help to enhance our way of living here, especially in the summer because it gets so hot. And, you know, it'll be nice for our dog, and it will also just make our space feel that much more, you know, relaxing and like its own little resort, and just be able to finally get some plants in the backyard. I can start gardening, and I'm just really excited to share all of it with you guys. We're gonna do a really fun rose garden and just kind of make it like a European, like Mediterranean resort style backyard. So I'm really excited to share the plans with you guys. Also, I got this new mascara not that long ago, and it is one of my new favorites. So I'm kind of near the end of it right now, so I don't have a ton in here, but it's the highly rated anti-gravity mascara. But I'll usually do like a couple coats of it. So maybe like 2 for my videos that you guys see. I normally put 2 coats on. So for probably like the past 10 to 15 videos, I have done the same exact thing every time for my lips. So I will link these products below, but basically I just do a liner and then I fill it in with this lipstick. So I'm gonna do that real quick. I overline a little bit there. So I like to overline just at the top parts. So I feel like that looks a little bit more natural if you overline up here and then you bring it down to your natural lip line as you get, you know, more towards the corners. Same thing with the bottom lip. I'll overline down here and then I'll bring it right to my actual lip line closer to the corners. So that. And then I just fill in with this guy. And that's really it. Sometimes I will do a setting spray. Let me see if I have it here. This is the e.l.f. Power Grip Dewy Setting Spray. I feel like it makes my face a little bit dewier, not a ton. So I just do this if I want my makeup to last a little bit longer. I don't do this every single time, but it's nice to have for when I want it to like stay in place all day. So yeah, that is the finished makeup look, and just kind of wanted to update you guys on the sale of the North Carolina house. It was sad for me to sell the house just because that is where my channel got its start. There's so many good memories in that house, and you know, it's really where we kind of got started with DIY projects and where I got to kind of start honing my design style and really start getting creatively involved with design and sharing that all with you all. So, you know, definitely bittersweet to kind of close the door on that house, literally. But I do think back to the moment where we said goodbye to that house and we shut the door to make our cross-country drive out here. I think deep down that we both knew we were saying goodbye to the house. So I think now we feel really good about our decision, and we're so excited to now create new opportunities for ourselves out here within this new chapter. So let's go head out to the backyard and I'll show you guys what we're thinking for the pool and the landscaping and all that fun stuff. Okay, so this is roughly the size and shape that we were thinking. We just kind of taped it out with this caution tape. Right here, this is a 12 by 26 rectangle, and we just want to keep it really simple, maybe add some steps here on this side and then put a little deck right here for these lounge chairs. So these lounge chairs will move over there, and then we'll just have some steps into the pool. And also I want to add some deck jets just because I feel like that will add such a nice ambiance and sound and kind of make it feel a little bit more interesting, kind of like it's a reflecting pond in the middle of a European garden or something like that. And then as far as the border, we were thinking of just doing some travertine coping like this because it's a beautiful natural material. So this sample is a lot more smooth, but it has kind of like some pretty color variation within it. And then this one over here is just more natural looking. So it kind of has that tumbled textured look, which I gravitate towards a little bit more, especially for a pool. This is a lot less slippery, and I love like the natural stone look that this one has. So I'm leaning towards this one, but we are definitely still in the quotes phase and like getting everything figured out. And then over here, what I figured we would do is, because we have this lovely tree that kind of like drapes over one side, I figured this would be perfect for a pea gravel patio. So very similar to what we had in our last house. You know, we had the rose garden with the pea gravel in the middle and then a nice seating area. I figured we could do that on a much smaller scale here. And then we could add some lanterns up here, maybe some string lights, and then we could have a pretty kind of maybe like European style like iron chair and table set with the pea gravel patio, and then some rose bushes surrounding it. And then these bushes, we're gonna try to save them. We're gonna try to put them in some bins while they are building the pool. I love these so much. The hummingbirds love these during like the spring and fall months. Like there's so many hummingbirds out here, and I love watching them from the window. So I think I'd really like to keep these and just move them to the landscaping wall along the back. So it's another thing we're gonna do, is we're just gonna add some nice bushes and landscaping along the back. Keep the plants of that like Mediterranean kind of southwestern vibe. So things like these olive plants here will go back there. I found these at Lowe's this weekend, and they were such a pretty size and such a good price. I was like, I'm gonna get those and then plant those along the back when it does come time to plant. So these are some of my rose bushes that I have been keeping over here in the shade just during the hot months of the summer. So these will also be planted in the ground once we kind of get everything leveled out and, you know, figured out. So that's kind of roughly the plan, but we're still getting quotes, and you know, we're gonna see how the rest of it goes, but that's like the rough idea that we have right now. All right, everyone, that about wraps up this video. I hope that you guys enjoyed just hearing a little casual life update. I'm really excited to share the progress of our backyard with you guys over the next couple of months. So hopefully it's a really good and beautiful transformation. I think it's one thing to kind of have the plans, but it's another to like actually see it come to life. So hopefully not too much longer before we start to see some progress back there. We are in the beginning phases where we're getting quotes from different people and kind of seeing, you know, what different packages there are and how much we want to do and how much we want to take on ourselves with the landscaping versus hiring it out, things like that. So hopefully we'll be underway soon, but I just want to thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope you have a wonderful and fabulous week, and I will see you guys in my next one. Bye. Bye.